Diddy did not get bail, but he also didn't get denied bail. What's that mean? Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore, and this is not the outcome many of us expected. Diddy did not get denied his, whatever. He's still there, but he still has the potential to get bail, is what I'm trying to say. Attorney John Witherspoon is here. It's Kim is here. She was man of the live. Bravo to you two. Thank you so much. We had a lot of technical problems. I'm hoping this will work. But I popped in to help Kim do the recap, and Kim did a fantastic job. Go support her. Real quick, let's just go through. Bravo. Please, everybody, go tip Inner City Press. For real, this dude's doing a killer job. I got to make sure I throw some his way every time we use these. I'm so grateful that he's doing that. I'd love to get in touch with him. It'd be fun to get him to call in one of these days. He has a Patreon as well, so we will. But please send some popcorn love over there because he's really the only one getting us this access. So grateful for his work. So they showed up and all rise, and it went straight to, let's get to the legal pad. Tell me about the legal pads. You could tell, John, the judge was almost like, all right, tell me about this. Like it was an immediate question right up the gate because that was a big issue where it seemed like he brought a legal pad in, said it was legal, but then it wasn't what was actually in the photos. And then the judge, Diddy's lawyers tried to sort of get around it. The first time I saw them was on Tuesday. As we sit here today, I'm not sure what legal was written on each of them. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. Different members of the defense team was telling me to write legal on the pads. There was a photo of a pad without legal on it. So it's clear that on November 1st, the sweep, they did not all say legal. The judge, the pad you handed up to me, did it say legal on it on November 1st? Clearly, he's implying it did. Diddy's lawyers, the pad, I'm not sure. It's just a complete, John, as a lawyer, this guy, quickly, he's caught. He knows he's caught. He's just trying to play dumb.
Well, there are a couple of explanations, one of which is a worst case scenario, one of which is Diddy got a marker and he wrote something on there potentially after the investigator came in and looked through all the stuff. The bottom line was, I'm sure that was a very scary occasion for the defense lawyers. And I'm sure the judge was not happy to even have to deal with that. But it seemed to all get worked out in the end. And the judge basically said, don't try this again or there's going to be real problems next time.
Right, but you're being nice. How do you not know what the thing you're showing the judge is? It seems to me that the lawyer absolutely knew that the pads and questions didn't say legal, but he said they did to the judge. No?
Well, but again, it's possible that something happened that was outside of the lawyer's knowledge and outside of the lawyer's control.
I know, but you're being too nice, I think, because the lawyer said in that, Kim, am I crazy? The lawyer seemed to say last week or last session, this is what they took, and it said legal on it, which is clearly not, it was a lie because the photos showed that it wasn't. But either way, I think we all agree the judge clearly was perturbed. Moving forward to make sure representations are true. For sure. We all agree that's not the judge. You don't want the judge telling you that to your lawyer, right? That's usually
bad.
A bad sign.
That's bad.
Oh, yeah.
And I say that combined with the document that we saw earlier this week when they asked for the exception to be able to file their latest document that was over 10 pages. And the judge was like, yeah, but you need to make these requests in a timely fashion.
Right.
Like it kind of just feels like the judge is having to educate these lawyers of like, come on, right?
You
and
know better.
I think that is notable.
Yep.
So then they asked about the status. The judge was like, well, what about the laptop? Because that seemed to be a fair criticism. Like, well, hello, why isn't he getting a laptop sooner? Get him he has his rights. Get him the laptop so he can read this stuff. The files and stuff should be on it. And then they did respond, the laptop for him to review the discovery at the MDC. The idea is to preload the information he's allowed to have at the MDC on the laptop. There's a protective order. On the bail application, I don't have to deal with the Bocini case. The defense is saying there are extensive conditions proposed, including 24/7 security. What about the Fox case? There was no RICO charge in that case. So the judge said, okay, fine. That case is not related, but I want you to address the proposed conditions. There has to be some level of trust. The defendant will follow them. Here, he will not. He cannot be trusted. Consider his conduct in custody after the two judges' findings. His attorneys are enabling his flouting of the BOP's rules. Consider the labeling of the pads after the fact, which is what he ultimately did. He knew the pad didn't say legal. He wrote it after the fact, it seems, and is now trying to play like that's what he had. And the lawyer's just trying to like get away with it. Even family members What is your response if Mr. Combs says, even if they don't trust me, there be 24/7 security? Response, if he can't comply in a custodial setting, he will not comply if released. What type of security firm? They suggested a co-conspirator, one whose phone was taken only the day before. The second suggestion was a defense investigator in this case. That investigator has been out contacting witnesses. Essentially, they work for him. This would be the defendant buying his way out. You've conceded that Bustini's bar does not apply here. You've cited his wealth to release him. So can't he use it? Which is interesting. We're not seeking his continued detention based on his wealth, but rather danger, risk of flight, and obstruction. Is obstruction your main argument, the judge asks? Danger to others. So not the flight, risk of flight. We still rely on that too. They're like, look, we want them all. It's all of them. Don't be confused. It's a mixture of all three of these things. And then they go, well, tell me about obstruction. They try to ask for more of that. He's continually violating the rules. If running a PR campaign is running a PR campaign, obstruction, which honestly, I thought, yeah, the judge is asking more specific, tougher questions here that seemingly made it look like he might be open to bail, guys. And honestly, a PR campaign shouldn't be obstruction. But the government responded, that's not what we have here. Rather, it's a concerted effort to impact the integrity of these proceedings. He says, I want to reach the jurors. I only need one. The judge, he's not permitted to engage in any conduct to impact a jury pool, which is a fair question. Like, he's allowed to go do it. It doesn't mean he's actually speaking to a juror. And they responded, well, his intent, it's obstructive conduct. He violated the so-called gag order. He's the one who asked for that order.
Yeah.
The court entered in the order October 25th. He started his campaign on 27th. He couldn't even comply for 2 days. What about the Abercrombie case where the government agreed to release on $10 million bond? They wrote this letter, which I guess sort of explained why they didn't think that was related. I think the better comparison is the two prior denials of bail here, says the government. Judge goes, well, what about his claim that the government spliced the video? He apologized. That's the point. Why did you use the splice video and not the original? It was because it was public, they're saying. We wanted to use the same one that everyone else saw. The cell phone footage was grand jury material, and we don't want the defendant to be able to retaliate against the grand jury witness. We did add blurring of the victim's face. In 2016, the defendant bribed hotel security $100,000 to make it go away. That was a big reveal. We didn't really know the amount of the number, right, Kim? $100,000 is a lot of moolah. That's nuts. I'll come back to you. Let's just keep, I love this part because then they're like, does it matter that he threw a vase or the flowers in the vase? He admitted to it and he apologized for it. This took place in the middle of a freak-off. The U.S. has evidence of a male commercial ex-worker that was in the hotel room at that time. Damn. This is devastating evidence for the trial. It shows why he cannot be released on bail. He is violent. He is committing to covering up his crimes. The evidence against him continues to mount. We've learned of punching, kicking employees and partners. Then they went back. All right, Diddy's team, what do you say? I'm going to have Miss Shapiro lead us off here. I love this part. Talk about throwing an attorney under the bus. Well, Your Honor, he was not dragging her back to the freak-off. Judge interrupts. There was dragging. I don't mean to. There was kicking. Well, he apologized. Like, my God. Yeah, talk about, what are you supposed to defend there? You can't. The judge, what about the 2018 text messages with victim one about violence? We have gathered more information about victim one even yesterday. I don't want to quote it because it's under seal, but it was consensual. I don't want to quote from them either, but you know the ones I mean. When the judge is saying you know the ones I mean, also not a good sign. We are proposing an independent security firm. It feels like we missed some comments here, but whatever, we're moving forward. There was some mutual regrettable physical conduct going both ways. There was violence by the other person and by Mr. Combs allegedly. So apparently because it went both ways, whatever he did was justified. Shapiro, in the phone case, the defendant told someone to lie by phone from the MCC. In the Gotti case, the head of the crime family told a witness to get a kick in the A. The government does not have that here. And it's a valid concern. It does seem like he's never actually fully threatened or told a witness to lie or I'll pay you off. It doesn't seem like we have such clear-cut evidence here, although it's all redacted, but you'd think they would have been all over it. Shapiro, we cited the Trump case. Defendants have greater rights to speak than their lawyers. An Instagram post as well as, I don't know if I can, his communication from the prison though. He says the prosecution is motivated by racism. Oh God, of course they're throwing anything they can to try to get out. This is covered by the First Amendment. Messages they point to are not instructions to lie. There is a barrage of negative media coverage. He has a right to respond to that. But why not through counsel, the judge asks. Well, we're happy to do that. Well, you should have done it in the first place. And it gets worse. It gets worse, guys. Shapiro, we're lawyers. It's not really what we do. Some of these recordings show that he's telling people just to tell the truth. Talk with my lawyer. Victim 3, you're saying the communications are fine? Yes, same on witnesses 1 and 2. So apparently there's a victim 3, which we didn't know about, where he was being more aggressive. Even the judge seems to think the communications weren't fine. As we continue to reload, what about the communications that are missing? Witness 1 reached out to Mr. Combs' counsel and asked us for a lawyer. We didn't do anything along those lines because it was an odd request. I don't know the factual answer. How do you not know? There was a message from Mr. Combs to the witness 1. I'd like you to give it to you under seal. Also may know it does not give rise to the level of obstruction. I do not have the actual message. Garagos, my client obeys me. For example, he stopped using it ASAP after the phone lines. The messages with witness 1 were pre-arrest. He obeys us. He came to New York in the BOP. When I tell him not to do something, he doesn't. Yeah, right. I submit that the charges in the Jeffries case are worse than here. They allege to an international trafficking business. They were AR'd, forced to engage. While in Jeffries' case, one defendant is 80 and the other 71. Mr. Combs is 55. I hate to say it, but that's not young. The U.S. suggests he won't follow conditions, though. These conditions are more restrictive than they would be in prison, they argue. Mr. Diddy, Costco lawyer, where's the home he'd be in? So this is interesting, guys, because he's asking now specifically, well, okay, let's say I humor it. How would it go down? Which to me is telling that he's open to the idea. I don't want to give you the address, but he's on Star Island. Clearly, we can figure that out. He has 2 houses there. There's a causeway, there's a dock, but there would be no boat. Let's put him on an island that's very hard to get to, that anyone could travel to via other properties and their boats. But no, the judge at least is like, nope, that's not going to work. We're in New York. Give me a moment. They then clearly shuffle to say, well, there's an apartment that's available, 3-bedroom, and 24/7 security going to be. Well, would you like to speak to them? It's Patriot Security. They merged with Crisis 24. Apparently they're here now. There would be 2 security guards in the apartment and 1 downstairs. So a total of 3. No access to phones or the internet except for calls with counsel arranged by the security personnel. This is more restrictive than in the MDC. Mr. Combs would avoid all contact with anyone who may be a witness. I think he has a right to do that, but I want to make sure it's easy for the court as possible. We are going to investigate thoroughly before the May 5th trial. He has a right to assist. The government is saying Mr. Combs, though, would be paying these people. It comes down to trust. Combs' lawyer, it's a different relationship. These are professionals that are only going to be in his life for 8 months. It's a high-profile case. So they're clearly viable. How can we trust them? The other security you pitched were the ones who scratched off the numbers off the weapons in the house. You can't be trusted. He's been in jail in 66 days without a laptop. He only got one a few hours. What is unique here is how long we've waited 9 weeks to get one. The judge says, well, the solution for that is to come to me. We can call these hearings and get things done, which is, again, I will admit, is not fair that they aren't getting things done for his respect. And honestly, I think that's helping Diddy. I have a whole presentation about the tape. They just skipped it. They then went on, what about, have there been other cases with private guards? No one really knew of any. Witness 1 participated in multiple freak-offs. Defendant continued to contact witness 1. Counsel was retained. Instagram post was planned for a week using other inmates' codes. His family member said the lawyer said not to do it. And the defendant responded, I don't care. It's my birthday. But you know, Kim, they're controlling him. They can totally just control him.
Unless it's his birthday. Then it's different.
It's his birthday. I'll R who I want to. I'm sorry. It's really bad taste, but it's what he's doing.
All of this is just so ridiculous.
It's just the guy. He wants to just, I can do whatever I want. I'm a savage. Do I still have that here? I don't have it. I'm a savage.
I'm a savage. Oh, I'm a savage. Whatever I want, I'm going to get. Whatever I want, I have to get.
Especially on his birthday. Now, the judge says the sharing codes is common and that the conduct was covered by the First Amendment. BOP handbook prohibits them, judge. Defendant has at least 8 inmate codes that he bought. They say, contact me operates through this trust, other link, blah, blah, blah. They're like, it's not permitted. In the Jeffries one is detained, a foreign national. This is more similar to the R. Kelly, Keith Raniere cases. That's when the judge said, look, I suggest both parties put in letters by Monday at noon about what types of communication he may engage in. Monday at noon. I see people from the second row standing up. We had an email for a week to get him file folder. Blah, blah, blah. His adult children are weighing. I love how they call it his adult children. So they're trying to still make them sound like the children, but reminding them they're adults. He is not a lawless person. We spent hours at the prison. Mr. Combs was writing down what I said. He's not out of control. DOJ is responsible for the MDC. Those calls are from me all the time. I hang up. It's confusing what they're saying there. He has access to cell phones, Combs' lawyers admitting, which is crazy, as John, you pointed out, John, but not under our conditions. He fights, he kicks, he makes phone calls. This can be addressed. Thank you. I mean, it's a lot to address. We're going to get to a decision out prompt next week. It was adjourned. So that's where we were. There was some spiciness in the court. I want to go straight to you, John. Quickly, what do you think's going to happen here? From my verdict, it does seem like he's more open. He's trying to figure out where he could go. What kind of security is it going to be? Ultimately, do you think the judge is trying to be careful here and maybe give Diddy a bone to ensure that he can't later cry that he didn't have his rights?
Yeah, well, I don't think he can cry that he didn't have his rights regardless, but it is interesting that the judge did not say, sorry, I'm not persuaded, end of story, get back on the van and go to MDC and stay there. So, as I said, I will concede that it's a little I would say it's interesting that the judge has requested more information by noon on Monday, and he did not make a definitive ruling one way or the other. I would still put my money on the fact that he is going to remain at MDC until trial starts. But there are possibilities here.
Kim, I don't know. There was a few points to this upgrade. I was smelling more BS than it reminded me of Amber Turd. I mean, come on. There was so much back and forth on this. What do you think is going to happen?
My hope and my gut says that he's not going to get bail. There's been too much back and forth, and the fact that pretrial is concerned, there's a lot going on here. But it does concern me that the judge has not immediately made the decision. And like you said, Andy, I don't know if maybe this is something where they're trying to make sure that he feels that he's had all of his rights, that his story has been, like, his version of events has been heard and has been considered. So we want to avoid a mistrial at all costs. But I am concerned right now. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it's still anyone's decision. Part of me thinks that, just like we've always said, the judges clearly have made their decision. There's nothing really glaringly different here, but I will agree that the Diddy's lawyers are doing a very good job. I think, John, what's happening here is they're like, listen, we're just preparing for the mistrial. So you can keep denying us and you can get what you want. You can do all this stuff and deny our client and put him in prison, not give him the laptops, whatever. But I think they're going to be remembering all of this and using this if and when he loses to say our client couldn't even get a chance to get out of prison to do his research. They had no evidence at the time, yada, yada, yada. Look what the judge, they just constantly, the negative press, yada, yada. They're going to paint a picture that it wasn't right. I'm really worried about it. So at the end of the day, that could cause some issues. And look, there's been a lot of thoughts about political people, and all it depends is which judge on a certain thing might want to cover something up. And so it does worry me to offer any sort of excuse for a later judge to have those excuses. Worries me. There's a part of me that's like, fine, put him at the 24/7 security. If he really does something else, well, then it's like case closed. The dude's done. Like, I don't think it's more risky than other things out there. Do you see where I'm coming from? Do you think there's a version of this where the judge might just want to be proactive in preparing for, I don't want the excuse that I didn't give you your rights?
Yeah, the only problem with that is that there are dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of people at MDC who are being confined under the same circumstances and who are having to deal with the same hurdles to get access to the internet or their lawyers or paperwork or whatever it is. So it would be a little bit of a stretch for Diddy's lawyers at some point to come around and say, oh, well, even though he was being confined under the same circumstances as everybody else, he couldn't make it work for him. That's a little bit of bridge too far, I think, in terms of trying to make an argument. And again, that would be something that if there was ever a question of whether he was able to access, effective legal assistance through counsel, that would be the first thing I think that the DOJ would bring up. It's like, look, he was kept under the same conditions as everybody else. This is a known issue. You're going to have to work a little bit harder to make things work out in terms of having a conference and booking a room and all that kind of stuff. It's definitely inconvenient. There's no question about that. But it's a known quantity. People have been dealing with it for a long time. One other thing I'll just point out here too. He needs to be kept safe. You're talking about other people that are out there. If he's in the Bureau of Prisons and if he's in this high-profile unit, he's conceivably a lot safer than he might be at an apartment somewhere. If he's getting in a car back and forth and driving from the courthouse to an apartment somewhere, and somebody figures out where that is and,
blows up the whole building, right?
Right. That's something I'm surprised we didn't really hear anything about too, because he needs to be protected. And again, back to the judge. The judge doesn't want to have that scenario on his hands where everybody says, "Well, why'd you let the guy out? You should have known this was going to happen." So it's just another angle to consider. And who knows? Maybe the letters on Monday will delve into that. But,
the letters are just going to talk about what he's allowed to communicate, and it feels like they should already know that answer. So this whole letter thing just feels like, the teacher just trying to tell the dumb student, enough, okay, fine. Now you won't be able to make this argument anymore. It's on your damn paper. Stop handing in the wrong assignments. But that's a very fascinating point. Kim, any thoughts on that? The fact that it's shocking to me that they're not saying, listen, this is a big case and there's a lot of important people involved. And we're also worried for his own safety. That would have been an interesting take. What do you think of that, Kim?
Honestly, it wasn't one that really had crossed my mind that much. And I'm glad that we talked about it because I think it is a relevant point. Ultimately, he needs to be safe. He needs to be with us for this trial. For justice to be served, and I'm in favor of, whatever that takes, because he should stand trial. And yeah, but I don't know about MDC because we've had things that have happened before in jails, right? Where high profile people have not made it
nowhere
out.
Safe for the diddler.
Yeah.
That's the safe thing. And you know what? I take comfort in that. I take comfort in the dude's now got to be the one who's looking behind his back because I think he deserves it. That's just my personal opinion. But there it is. A lot we broke down. Go ahead. Yeah. Final thoughts.
There's been a lot of confusion on this, and I'm sure it'll be brought up. I just want to clarify. The place where Jeffrey Epstein was incarcerated was not the MDC. It's another three-letter M something else C, but not MDC. So, and I believe the facility where JE had his problem, I believe that has been closed. I'm not entirely sure, but the point being, it is not the same location where Diddy's being held.
Good note, because a lot of people keep assuming and putting that misinformation out. It's not. It does, but still, proof that it can happen, right? That's what's scary.
That's more.
No matter where it is, that the fact that happened with Jeffrey is insane to me. And then everyone just sort of moved on, oh yeah, it was an accident. We don't know. Bullshit. Yeah. They know, and that's the problem. If you say it's safer there, I would argue, is it? is it safer? That's the argument now. Who knows? But a lot to process. But I will real quick just around. I think we all came into this stream thinking he wasn't going to get bail. Do you feel a little bit more worried that he might get bail after today's hearing? Kim?
Yes.
John?
Yes, but not by much. I still think it's an uphill battle. for him
But
to get
it
out of
sounds like we all left this stream today and this hearing with, it's not as clear cut as we assumed. The judge is clearly humoring it. We will see. He could easily still say no, but it is something to pay attention to, and you're going to want to pay attention to it here on Popcorn Planet. So hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for alerts, and hit that thumbs up. What happens? Looks like we'll get a verdict next week, probably Monday, Tuesday is what we're hearing. So make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you so much to It's Kim. She did a fantastic job while I was out. Go support her. Subscribe to It's Kim. Drop her a tip. It's in the Linktree links on all of our pages. And make sure you give John Witherspoon a follow on Instagram. Always a pleasure, sir, to have you and your expertise. You guys are so the best. Thank you for covering for me in the beginning of the stream. And thank you for watching and all the tech issues we had. We will be back. We will keep you posted. So much more is coming. So hit that subscribe button and stay tuned. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. And yes, a members only uncensored is coming. You're not going to miss it. What's my biggest fear in this whole thing? I'll be dropping that soon for all you members.